Hey, Kevin.
Hey, how's it going?
Awesome. How are you?
Doing really good. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you that don't know, Kevin Kauffman is the founder of the Next Level Agents Facebook group. Tons of solid information on that. You're also out there doing a great podcast with the Kevin and Fred show, and you're running a team in Phoenix, right?
Yeah, that's home. Phoenix is home base, so we've got like an expansion team, but Phoenix is home for us, and where the lion's share of our business and focus is.
Awesome. Well, I got to tell you, one thing we love, and even before we knew you, we were on the Facebook group, right? So you're always giving out tons of free, amazing content on that. What was what's the process behind that? The thought, the vision?
Oh man, I wish I had one, to be honest with you, Jason. So, and it's funny too. If you ask, if you talk to the others that were around me when the day I created it, it was just sort of, I don't know, we'll just figure it out. My whole thought process was, there needs to be another group out there. I don't like the conversations that are happening and the ones that exist. And so I guess we'll just lead the conversation and kind of start it there. And that was it. Like, that was just it. And it kind of really developed organically. Didn't have an end game on it. It's so funny because as it grew, a lot of people said, "Hey, are you planning to do this? Or are you thinking about doing that?" I'm like, "No, but man, that's a really good idea. I wish I had thought of that."
Yeah. How many people are in that group now?
It's not huge, it's big, but it's, I want to say 26,000 agents or so.
Yeah. And that's agents all over the world, right? Not just the country?
Yeah, for the most part, it's North America, but there's no doubt we've got some folks in the UK and Australia in there, and I'm sure from other places too, if I went and looked at the little heat map that Facebook gives you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Very cool. So I guess, we hear about all the stuff now, but tell us a little bit, like, what's your backstory? When did you get into real estate? What prompted you to? All that good stuff.
So, what prompted me to, I'll share that first, and then I'll share when, because it's going to make you question my sanity. So I was kind of working my corporate job, and it was good. It was probably better than I had deserved. But I was also going back to school and was just working on getting a degree in business. And one day I had this professor, or I should say one semester I had this professor who, truthfully, what I found out later is he just kind of taught to give back. Like, that was his deal. He just wanted to give back to the community. So he always taught one or two classes a semester. In this particular class that I had him for the first time was on like business plans. And he just kind of comes in one day and he says, "Hey, we're not going to talk about, whatever was on the syllabus." He's like, "We're going to talk about money, and we're going to talk about real estate." And he taught this lesson, and understand at this time, I'm going back to school because all I knew is that I wasn't going to be able to hold a job. Like, I could no longer work. For the time I worked for GE Capital. And I could no longer, I knew that I couldn't do that. That wasn't going to be my path. I had no idea if I was going to do real estate or not. But he says, we're going to talk about real estate. And it just blew my mind. Like, that day he taught a lesson purely just about investing in real estate and the power of real estate and the power of business. And it changed everything for me. And I went and I went up to him and I said, "That you blew my mind. Can I buy you coffee? Can we have breakfast? Something like, I just need 10 minutes of your time. I just want to learn some more from you." So he said he agreed to, probably reluctantly. And we went to breakfast not too long after that, or I should say coffee. And he gave me some information and kind of set me straight on a lot of things. And I then took every class he taught for like the next 3 or 4 semesters in a row. If he taught it, I took it. Luckily they were all centered around real estate and business. And so I got a lot of value out of them. And that was what kind of set me on the path to real estate. I share all that to go, no idea I was going to end up a realtor even then. But what I realized is I just started to develop this passion for real estate. And so I got to the point where I realized I could no longer, it was like I had seen the other side. I couldn't unsee it. You're probably familiar with that term. I couldn't unsee real estate. And so I decided if I still had to have what I thought was going to be a job, I should probably just go do it in real estate. And so I got a license and decided to start selling real estate, which happened to be, when I got licensed, it was May of 2007. So in our market in Phoenix, it was falling apart. And quite literally had friends telling me I was crazy, that I shouldn't get a license, and I'd missed my opportunity in the run up. And our market, it was falling apart. Like, there was literally 59,000 homes for sale at that time. There's
Wow.
there's 8,000 homes for sale now, to put it in perspective,
Yeah.
which is
Wow.
the craziest seller's market I've ever seen. So I came in an extreme buyer's market, short sale world, foreclosure world, and that was where I cut my teeth.
Wow. And how was it? How was the success that first year coming into a market that was in that state?
So, I mean, it depends on how you want to look at it. You want to look at the results. It was awesome, but it was also like getting like being in a boxing match with Mike Tyson every day, like just getting your teeth kicked in. But luckily, so that guy right there is my business partner, Fred. He and I started working together shortly after, and we had both done short sales. So actually my third transaction ever was a short sale, and it was actually his listing. But he had left he just got married and was going to go on his honeymoon. And so I agreed to sort of babysit his listings for him and agreed to help him with the short sale, not knowing what the hell a short sale was or what to do. And I just figured it out. And then a few months later, we realized we were both doing short sales. Ironically, we were both employing his brother to do some licensed assistant work for us for some of the stuff we didn't want to do. And it just made sense for us to go sit together in the same office. And so we rented an office and went to work. And we asked his brother to work for us part-time or full-time, and that we would try to pay him sooner or later. And, sort of made it happen. And so, I mean, when you look at that, so I got licensed in the middle of 2007. We started working together February of 2008. So I kind of look at my first year as 2008, even though I did okay. I probably sold 7 or 8 houses to buyers in 2007, besides the couple of maybe 2 listings I did. In 2008, we closed 60 transactions, which sounded good for like your first year in real estate, except that literally, what was it, like 40 of them closed in the fourth quarter. So we were broke all year. So we were broke the entire year. I mean, we were literally borrowing money from basically floating each other on our bills the whole year, just trying to make it work, trying to make ends meet. But we made it work, and I'll never forget. I guess it wasn't the fourth quarter. It would have been September of 2008 when it really started to break open for us. And it's been a fun ride ever since. And it's had its ups and downs. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
It's luckily we haven't gone, 8 months, 9 months without really seeing any good paychecks.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the team looking like now? So at the beginning it was really you and then the 2 of you. And now what does that look like? What's the vision?
Yeah. So, we were in leverage right away. That was the one thing we both, I think, understood, is that there's some things that we were good at, and some things that we just, quite frankly, didn't want to do. And so we were really lucky halfway through 2008. There was somebody in our world who we kind of knew, who she just noticed what we were building and noticed that we had some potential there. And we had a pipeline going, even though we weren't cashing a ton of checks at the time. And, she approached us about working for us. So she was way more talented than what we could afford at the time. And, but we knew that she had someone with her skill set could really help us make that next leap. And so we went through a lot of iterations, right? So and it's constantly been a game of, learning and top grading ever since. And she was with us for a number of years and really helped us get our footing solid. But you look at it now, so we've got, here in Phoenix is where we sit, and we've got our administrative staff and operational staff here as well, in addition to a couple of virtual assistants. And then we've got agents here in Phoenix, which is the lion's share of our business, and a couple agents. The part I'm kind of skipping past right now is we expanded our business into Denver in late 2014. And then we went into Nashville in, I want to say it was May, June, July, somewhere like that, of 15. So we've been there in San Luis Obispo, California. And we've had a few other locations along the way that haven't made it. We just recently closed down Tucson, Arizona after 4.5 years there, because our guy there, he needed to move. He, made a life decision to move to another state, and he's not licensed there yet. So we shut that down just in the last 90 days or so. But yeah, so we've had our ups and downs, but our team really just looks like, truthfully, we look like, I call it the broker model. Like, we just look like a small brokerage inside of another brokerage, because our agents take listings, they work with buyers, they do it all.
That's awesome. Yep.
So I have to go back to just kind of when you were talking about getting into real estate, and a big part of our job, and I think that this is something that a lot of agents struggle with, is just mindset, right? Like you come into this industry and we've been fortunate that we got licensed. We haven't had like a horrible downturn. We've only seen good times here with us, but it still is a mindset game, and to keep going. And as when you're getting into it, so what was your biggest takeaway, and how did you keep yourself so focused during that time?
So, it's funny. I was just reminded of this not too long ago. And I want to say, like, I actually think that it was an advantage for me that it was so bad and hard, if you will, in the eyes of most real estate agents. Because we learned how to run a business and how to be successful in the worst of markets. Right. Mm-hmm. So I felt like that was going to be an advantage for me from then on. And it has been, for sure. I still feel that way. It allowed us to grow our business bigger and faster than we ever could have. It allowed us to build the relationships around the industry faster than we ever could have. So there was a lot of good that came from that. But as it, more to your question, Jen, like the thing about mindset is, I think what I was doing is I was very purposeful, maybe even more so then than now, about what I listened to. And I know that, that might sound silly, because we had our ups and downs, and I mean, you always have ups and downs when you're in business, right? It doesn't matter how good things are or how bad things are. There's ups and downs. One thing I know that I did a lot of is I was always listening to some sort of audio. At the time, it was still CDs, 7 in my car. Like I was in my car a lot, and so I was always listening to something whether it was like a Tony Robbins or more real estate specific, like even Robert Kiyosaki, even though that wasn't totally applicable to being a realtor. Right. I was always listening to something like that more than I could even think of, because that was, I just wanted everything I could get my hands on. And looking back, it was like, I knew that if I let my mind wander too much, probably, maybe we wouldn't have made it, or maybe I wouldn't have been able to get things as fast as we did. I've got a good buddy of mine. His name's Dustin Runyon. You guys actually should interview him. He's way better than me. But Dustin, he always says, like, the thing is like, when it comes to success, it's like, it's probably 20% mechanics and like 80% psychology. And the problem is we as human beings, we all sit around and we're focused on the psychology and hardly ever on we're focused on the mechanics and hardly ever the psychology. And so when I look at it, like from a mindset standpoint, I guess I was focusing on my psychology, even though I didn't really realize it at the time. I was just trying to learn. I just wanted to learn anything and everything I could that would give me an edge in business. And it would, that would like show me the way, if you will.
Yeah. Now you said like originally you got in because you were really into like hearing about real estate investing in real estate. Is that something that's still like, that you're heavily involved in, or did you kind of start focus more on the sales side and your team?
I'm involved in it now. I wouldn't say heavily, but I'm way less involved in it than I thought I would be. But what I realized fairly quickly, because I was able to get around some really good mentors, is that real estate was a business. I went into real estate thinking that realtors behaved like most realtors do behave this way. You guys know this, like they go from one transaction to the next, right? And they don't treat it like a business. They don't think of it like a business. I went into it thinking that's what real estate was for everybody. And I quickly learned, I was like, oh, there's a business here. And in a lot of ways, I kind of fell in love with the business of real estate. Like, I mean, I love, don't get me wrong, like I love to negotiate and all that other stuff. Like I've always felt good about that stuff, but I love the business of it much more. And so honestly, I quickly forgot about the investing stuff. Not to say we didn't make some investments along the way. We did. Some have been better than others. We've done, I would say now here we are in what we're recording this October of 2020. I'm a lot more aware of investment opportunities now than I ever have been in my life. And, we're looking at, we're doing a flip right now. Bought a commercial building a couple of years ago. Done another, wholesale deal or two. And again, it's not a lot, because I've got friends that they might be do 2, 3, 4, 5 deals a week, because that is their business model and it's not ours. Like we really focused in on our real estate sales business and made that our one thing, if you will.
Yeah. I think that like another thing that you're saying that I thought was really important was like how you were saying mindset and how it was what you listened to. And I think that kind of goes back to also like who you surround yourself with, right? So for us, the one thing that's been so important is just like keeping ourselves in an environment where we're constantly being challenged. We're constantly connecting and evolving with people, connecting and networking with people that are doing so much better than us. That's what keeps you motivated, right? You have to have that, something to chase after. So when you first started, where did you start out at? Were you an independent? Did you go join a brokerage? Like, what did you do?
So I actually joined Keller Williams Realty the minute I got my license. I'd gone and talked to a bunch of different brokerages, probably 8 or 9, including my now business partner's brokerage. At the time, he was at Century 21. I was teasing him about his gold jacket, and he was there because he really liked the broker, and they did have a really great broker. And so I went and interviewed there, but I was like, yeah, that's not really for me. But what I saw at Keller Williams was what I wanted and needed to get my business started. And so I started there and spent the first 11 years of my career almost to the day there.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was really good. I like to say, like, I had 9 really good years at Keller Williams. I was there for 11, but 9 years were really amazing.
Yes.
So when did you come over to EXP? What year was that?
So that was 2 years ago in June. So June of 2018 is when we made the switch.
Wow. What was the stock when you came over?
What's crazy? It was actually it was really high. Like, it was at that little blip, right? Because they just gotten uplisted to the NASDAQ.
Yep.
So it might've been $17 or $18 for, 30 seconds. And then it was like $6, $7, $8.
Yeah.
When you really look at it, like if I show you, like if I was to log into my enterprise and show you what I bought some shares at my first few months, you'd be like, dang, you had to pay 14 or $15. But then, it averaged out, and we're doing, as we all know, we're doing okay on that these days.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I guess, what was your motivation though? You have this successful team, you're doing all this business. What were you looking for, and why did you come over?
I was looking for what I was looking for. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. I was looking to get the hell out of Keller Williams, to be honest with you. That was truthfully our driving factor, like, for a long, and I spent a long time trying to do that, and it just didn't make sense. And we never looked at EXP. Wasn't in our, just, it wasn't something we wanted to consider. And then, but when we did finally consider it, literally almost a year later, like it was a year after beginning our search, good friend of ours who is responsible for us coming over, his name's Curtis Johnson. We were at lunch with him. He had made the move over 4 or 5 months before, and he was loving it. And we're like, okay, fine. Like, I totally love you, respect you. This guy's, Curtis, don't ever tell him I said something nice about him, but he's a legend, right? Like, he's a good guy. And he's, he sold a lot of real estate. And I was like, well, his business it's not the same as ours, but it's similar enough. So there must be something to it. So we're like, okay, what do you like about it? So the minute he opened up and told us about it, we were like, whoa, that's exactly what we're looking for. We just didn't know it. And what we were looking for was, we were clear in our process because, as we had gone through some pretty heavy talks with some other national and as well as regional organizations, we'd gotten really clear on what we were looking for. We needed to have a place that allowed us to be autonomous and simultaneously plug in when we wanted to plug in, right? So, like, leave me alone, let me do my work, and don't bug me to buy anything or to come to anything. Let me do my work, and then when I want to plug in, I'll come plug in. So that was number one. The other one we had to have was, it needed to be a better financial opportunity for the agents on our team. And then because we're paying exorbitant splits for, I shouldn't say we, but the newer agents on our team. And then we also wanted to have one brokerage per state because we were operating at the time in both Colorado and Arizona in multiple cities, which was just causing a headache for compliance with marketing, et cetera. So truthfully, that was what we wanted. And then once we saw EXP, we were like, oh, there's the collaboration piece jumped out at us, the ability to give back, actually be rewarded for it, the ability to have some, some sort of entrepreneurial stake in it, to grow something, and the ability to not to have to deal with major politics. Like, all of those things were like, we kind of saw, like, once we actually opened our eyes and said, okay, well, look, we saw it instantly. And It wasn't too much longer before we said that, let's go. Like, it was, even that we had been looking for a year, it probably took us 2 weeks to make the decision. It took us 4 weeks to move because one of our top guys happened to be out of the country. And, you know, we wanted to wait for him to get back before we made the move, but like we were ready to go.
Yeah.
And
we're also from KW. We had some small ownership in a local KW franchise before we moved over. And to your point, it's, you know, we almost turned our blinders on to EXP for probably a year or two. We just weren't interested about hearing it for whatever reason. We thought we could make Keller better than it was, and ultimately couldn't. And then when we saw it, we're like, oh yeah, this is a no-brainer, right? And so now I find myself, it's like I'm talking to friends that are still at KW, and I'm like, this is such an easy decision that, like, how have you not made this, right? Because we know it's an easy decision. We know it's a better avenue to go, and it's just like you just want to open all their eyes.
Yeah, and you know, the thing that I've learned about that is that you can't open their eyes. And one of the things that we battle against when we, especially with people that we like and love, right, that we've got these long lasting relationships with, one of the things, whether they realize it or not, is like they've got their whole identity is wrapped up in their current decision to be where they're at.
Yeah.
Like that. And so there's a bit of, you've got to be able to eat crow, not just with yourself, but with the people around you. And that was one of the things we actually we pointed it out right away. We made fun of it. We joked at it. We pointed at it because when Curtis first made the move to EXP, he wanted us to go. I mean, we wouldn't even listen. And the joke is Fred, my partner, literally said to Curtis, who's been our friend for a decade at this point, said, hell no. And so we joke, like, how do we go from hell no to hell yeah?
Yeah.
But like we were able to go, you know what? Yeah, we were those guys. We didn't even want to look at it. And now here we are, waving the flag. And, you know, I think so part of it is like, we've got these identities built up as to who we are. And, you know, it's so funny. Like I didn't really ever get pitched. Like when we wanted to leave Keller Williams, we actually had to go outbound to all of these different companies to go, hey guys, we're looking, can you tell us about your company? Because no one ever approached us, because again, you know, I was a regional director at Keller Williams for a very short period of time. We bought a struggling franchise, turned it around, and it was awesome. It was, you know, at one point, probably the best brokerage in town. I mean, we had like $500 million producing teams in there. Like, it was a great brokerage. And I sold that and just focused on our business because the partnership just wasn't right for me at that point. But the thing is like, I think people, not only did I have my identity wrapped up in it, everyone else had my identity wrapped up in it. So I never got approached. And I think we do that, and we think that other people are going to think the same thing. Like, oh my gosh, if I go to now, luckily you guys, your spouses, you work together, so that's easy to talk to your spouse about it. But most people, like, we laugh about how hard it was for us to go to our wives and say, will you watch this video thinking about doing this? And we laugh because they were like, yeah, oh my gosh, that sounds perfect for you. You know, whereas we're like, almost didn't want to show them because we're like, they're going to hate it. They're going to think we're idiots for even considering it. And it was instantly, and Curtis had the same experience. It was like, oh my gosh, like that's like they made that for you.
Well, I can tell you one of the things for me, and I actually did a video about this the other day, is because, you know, we came over, same thing, like we were at KW, and I don't want to knock KW because we did have so many great things come from it.
Exactly.
But like, we got to a point where we just felt ourselves like lost, right? We knew this wasn't the right fit anymore. We didn't know where to go. And as we kept looking for things, a lot of the EXP agents that would try to talk to us in the past, why we did it is they wanted to go right into like building your downline and the profit share, or the revenue share, and the stock options. And for me at that time, I was so frustrated when they came at me with that, because I was like, I had already been promised revenue share that didn't pan out. So to me, I was kind of blew that off. And I also just felt like, I'm a realtor. I have a real estate business. I have a team. I'm worried about them and what I can do for them. And so when they led with that, I immediately was like, done. Like, you're not hearing me. You're not understanding my business. And so our big thing was that, you know, we wanted to network with, you know, bigger names in the industry. We wanted to have those mentors. We wanted to help our team grow. We felt like we were just hitting these same numbers year after year, and we weren't getting to where we wanted to be. And that's really what kind of forced us over. But I think that was a big thing. I think, you know, a lot of people see us talking about all these great things going on, and we love it, and we want to scream from the rooftops how great it is. I just don't ever want to be sending that wrong message that that's why we're there. There's so much more to this company than
yeah. And it's hard. That's hard for a lot of the folks on the other side of the fence to even contemplate. So I agree. Like, I think too many of us lead with the wrong thing. I'm a big believer in, like, I should lead with what's important to you. So so like Jason, Jen, what's important to you about your next home, right? About, what's important to you for what's next. Like, to me, that's where the conversation should start. But on the flip side, a lot of people in the industry are led to believe there is nothing more to the company outside of revenue share and stock. And they can no longer say the stock is fake because everyone can see how well that's performed. Right. And they can no longer say it's not sustainable because they've seen how the profit has just done nothing but grow as the company gets bigger. So those things are gone, but they can still say, yeah, but it's not a great brokerage. There's not good support. There's not good training. And they're never going to know. Like, I can't tell you how many times people are so surprised when I am talking to an agent about my experience at EXP, and I tell them how I'm more connected now to my brokerage than I have ever been in my 13 years in real estate. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, you don't even have an office. And I'm like, you're never going to know what I mean until you experience. It's one of those things that you have to experience, and you have to understand, like, you've got to get past what, a viewpoint of what these tools really are, and actually what you think they are, and come see what they really are. Otherwise you'll never, of course, the competition is not going to encourage you to have an open mind about your business, right? Your home, the brokerage you're a part of most of them are not going to encourage you to have an open mind about your business.
Yep. You're right.
So I have one more question for you about your experience when we going over to EXP, but I have to do I want to share with you guys one of our sponsors that they've helped us. They're a very innovative title company in the area. Their Celebration Title. We love everything that their celebration, their philosophies. I'm going to go ahead and share this with you guys real quick. So yeah, they do the confetti closings. Like, how fun is that, right?
That looks like a lot of fun.
But yeah, so getting back to what we were talking about real quick is the one thing, I know we're running out of time here, but I wanted to say, like, so with going over to EXP, like, you were looking for something different. Once you went over there, how did that affect your business and your team? Like, I guess for us, it's been just eye-opening, right?
Yeah. So there, if I could answer that in sort of two parts, which is, one of them is really just related. It's not really answering it, but so I had this whole experience in our search for something new, where I had this realization of, oh my gosh, again, I was raised, like, I grew up at KW, and I give them so much, I give Gary so much credit, for what I learned from him and the network of people and relationships I built there. But what I realized in that search was, oh my gosh, there's this whole other world. Like, the other 90% of the industry that operates completely differently, has a different viewpoint, has a different methodology, and it's not wrong. It's actually really good. And so I love that. So I want to kind of just share that part first. When we actually made the move over and the dust settled, it's had, I'm telling you, like, it's just had positive impact over positive impact over positive impact on our business, because we opened our eyes to seeing things. Like, there's not one way to do business. This is definitely not a KW issue. It's a brokerage issue. People tend to think there's only one way to do things, like the way the people around them are doing it. And so,
all right, guys, we may have to pick this episode up another time. It looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Kevin, you were great.
Oh, I don't know.
All right, you're gone now. You're going in and out now.
Oh, wait. No, okay. Well, I guess we'll chat with you again. Thank you for everything. Sorry about that.
All good. Thanks a lot for having me, guys, and we'll talk to you again soon, okay?